Hey everybody, this is Eden.
Hey, it's Chris. Welcome back.
Thanks for joining us in this podcast. And today we are going to jump into the topic of relationships. And I'm really excited about this topic today because I feel like this is one of the few things that you can take beyond the grave, right? Your relationships. So, first, I kind of want to talk about relationships with yourself and how that kind of reflects in relationships that you have outside of yourself. Um, so, if you find that you are having annoying relationships where people are talking behind your back or people are expecting more out of you than you wanted to do or things like that, then that's kind of an inner reflection of what's going on inside of you, especially if you're complaining about it. You know what I mean?
Sorry. Yes, right. That's exactly right. Our triggers, relationships are meant to trigger us. They're mirrors to us. They hold up mirrors, and yeah, that's where we experience a lot of our discomfort. That's where we do our most learning, That's what shows us who we are and what it invites
Mm-hmm.
conflicts, if you will. People think of conflict as a bad thing. It's really not. It's preventing or it's presenting an opportunity for us to grow, and it's challenging, and that's how we grow the most is through those challenging experiences. And so, yeah, looking at those ouchy places and what is triggering me. Um, the lie is that we're looking at it hurts. It's so intimate when it triggers us that it's like, wow, this is your fault. This is victim, right? That victim mentality, and we all sort of are guilty to a degree of it because we don't know how to balance our emotions. So we internalize it and we take it personally because it's based on our experience, right? So the one thing that I was led to talk about today when we were talking about relationships is looking at things from an outer perspective, from an observer standpoint. That's why all of this is all relevant. Anything astrologically, like any understanding any aspect of yourself in terms of relationships, astrology anyway, it's getting us to look at things from an outer standpoint. So getting out of your ego mind and not internalizing it because those are based on our experiences. Well, your experiences are different than mine. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to think of things in a different way. So, and we don't all have the information. We can't possibly conceive of understanding people uh, on a level that they're operating from because we don't know their experiences. We don't know their lens. We've never viewed it from their lens. We've never walked a mile in their shoes, so to speak, right?
Of course, of
Yeah,
course.
so we're responsible for our feelings when those are triggered, and I think I
Hmm.
spoke to that before, but yeah.
Absolutely. And any triggers that come up in relationships, that's just a past, well, in my perspective, this is just a past trauma that we haven't healed yet. And looking into your childhood, your child self, and trying to like mother yourself is so key. Nurturing yourself, holding yourself, giving yourself space and grace is key to continuing the relationship with yourself, and then it's going to show in a reflection to with the relationships outside of yourself, right?
Right.
So um, whenever my husband isn't doing the things that I've asked him to do and I get so mad at him, it is not actually like him not doing all of these things. It is me not giving myself a break,
Right.
right?
Right.
And I'm just like so appalled that he would even think that it's okay to have dishes in the sink for a whole week. He doesn't actually do that, but
Right.
but because in my childhood that wasn't allowed. I was supposed to do the dishes right after dinner time every time.
Right. So perfect segue into that. What does your inner child need? So
Hmm.
it's looking at the inner child, and it's so funny because I want to do a whole podcast. I just saw the movie Wicked. I don't know if you've seen it. I never saw the play. Never been to Broadway or anything like that. But but so there's apparently some additional things in it. There's one scene, I don't want to give the whole thing away, but there's one scene, have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
That the adult version of, the Green Witch, the Wicked
Hmm.
Witch, is seeing her child self, and it was like, wow. And to me, it was like, so I'm sure that's what it is. She was able to like take a look at that child self, and it was during this sort of transitionary place in the movie where she was healing. She was immersed in fear, but also becoming empowered. And it was like she was looking at this child self. It was so beautiful. It was like, wow, that's inner child healing. That's awesome. Like there's so many things that I could identify with this movie. We're gonna have to do the whole podcast around this
That
when
is
you've
so
seen it.
true. That is so true. But once you start seeing yourself as a child, then you start seeing the people around you as
Hmm.
children as well. And, in the Bible, it does say we are children of God, right? And I don't think that's a lie at all. If your husband is upset and having like, it looks like a temper tantrum because his inner child is upset.
Yeah, extra grace because
Yeah.
so there's a wound there, right? So
Hmm.
having compassion. When people respond and we don't understand, instead of going to anger or becoming, like I said, taking that on as personal assault, or whatever. Why? What is triggering that behavior? And how can you have compassion for that inner child and guide them to self-love to display something from a higher perspective and come
Yeah.
from a better, yeah.
Yeah, just trying to understand what's going on in that moment. And usually it comes back to the child self, always, always. And I even see like people that I despise, I don't really despise very many people, in their child self. And I feel so like bad for them, what they had to go through to become that person that is like mean or not very nice or, kind of takes advantage of you, things like that. Um, Anyway, so obviously the child self is very important in relationships and seeing the other person, giving them grace,
Right.
understanding.
So it just requires consciousness. So it's a
Hmm.
lack of consciousness, a lack of awareness. We call it ignorance, right? But it really is. Um, I worked as a med tender at a cannabis dispensary, and they would have these stupid rules, and I was like, why? This is so dumb. I hate this. Like, why? This is so limiting, right? This is, yeah, why aren't we more empowered to do this thing or say this thing? And it was a lack of awareness around, why. And once I understood the why, it was like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's not so dumb. Some stuff I still thought was insanely
Hmm.
stupid, but um, but yeah, it's a lack of light, a lack of awareness,
Hmm.
and that kind of allows us to understand people's demons, people's dark side, people's shadow side, right? They don't have an awareness around something. I think I spoke to that and I was like boasting on how like, oh yeah, no, I get Capricorn stuff, but like it is the lack of awareness when I don't understand something about myself, and that's creating discomfort. So again, an invitation for me and by disruption, in something, you just hope that the people that you put yourself in relationship with are kind, right? Because I feel like that is, who is it, John Gottman or something? He talks about, the four horsemen in relationships that will kill relationships, and one of
Hmm.
them is contempt. And if you can't be kind to your partner or whoever you're interacting with, it's like you can't have, that's like, for me it's a deal breaker. It should be for everybody that, kindness in relationships. So like when the disruption comes up, and sometimes that is taming our anger or taming our air, which are very masculine. Like you spoke to the last time we talked in the podcast, you were like, yeah, I feel like, you said I come across so aggressive. You said I have
Hmm.
an aggressive energy. You don't. You really don't. That is funny that you say that, though. I understand what you're saying, and that's what you're seeing. It's coming up that male, and this is where misogyny is alive and well too, because it comes up when you're overly outspoken, especially as a woman, when you're overly energized, you have an energetic presence, and if that isn't in a overly sweet way, right? Because we're supposed to come across that way. It's supposed to be tamed in that way, but when we're
Hmm.
not, it's called aggressive. Um,
Yeah,
Something to consider in today's society, the fabric of reality. Again, perspective. Perspective is everything, and everything can change with the shift, just small shift of perspective and the expansion of consciousness because of
absolutely. Yeah, something to think about.
it. Hmm.
Yeah, I find it very, I am passionate. I am so passionate about this subject. I'm going to get loud about it. But of course, I think that the people that have surrounded me have their own triggers around
Right.
passion
Yes.
and that they need to keep themselves quiet. But yeah, there's a good amount of factors going into relationships that we can look at. We can look at what your Venus sign,
Yeah.
getting to know yourself and how you show up in relationships, your love language,
Yeah.
even your attachment style.
Right.
These are the three major things that I look at whenever I am approaching a relationship, like a friendship or a romantic relationship, things like this. So, with your Venus sign, I am an Aries Venus.
Hmm.
And
That's fire.
so,
Cardinal fire.
yeah, that just means that I need initiative. I need somebody to initiate conversations. I need somebody to make plans and go through with them. Like I need initiative out
Right.
of somebody else.
You need somebody to help flame your fire. So air is good. You said you surround yourself with air signs, so that's
Hmm.
why, because they flame that fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, they feed it. So another fire sign would be something to match that.
Hmm.
A grounded earth sign who was able to fuel, right, your fire. Earth, air, airy earth, dry fire, dry earth.
No water.
Well, I mean, I feel like you are the water. You are the balance in the water when you bring it to a relation. Like I don't know, when you find the water, you're not separate from it. Like an
Right.
ocean, you're you're not a drop in the ocean. The ocean. Wait, what is the saying? You're the ocean in a drop.
I am the drop in the ocean
You're
that makes the
connecting,
waves,
right?
tsunamis. I don't know.
Connecting to the water element when
Oh,
you
well,
become one with it.
yeah, but I know this about myself, and I know that I need people to initiate things, initiate ideas, because if they don't, I will be the only one initiating, and I will extinguish my fire um, by overacting. That's okay.
Sorry. Right.
Well, and you said you were a Sagittarius
I'm a
Venus.
Sag Venus, yeah. Mutable. So interesting though, because the last episode we talked about fire and we limited it. I sort of didn't want to go into it. Was some of it spoke to the new moon in same sign, Sagittarius. Essentially, we talked about Sagittarius energy, and that's relevant. We have a fire trine, and we're in Sagittarius sun here, and Sagittarius new moon is coming up here. So we're feeling it. So anybody who has Sagittarius in their interplay, well, just find out where it is in your chart, and that's likely going to be showing up for you in a major way right now with some sort of transformative or creative inspiration. So if you put your energy towards something right now, initiation, something new, or some review thing that you're sort of reflecting on in order to redo, now is a really good time to put momentum into that. It will likely develop into something going forward. So this
Hmm.
this podcast is right on time too.
Awesome. That's
Mhm.
really cool.
Mhm.
So, another thing you can look into with your relationships, it's not very science based, but it's your love language. And there are five love languages. Excuse me. We have, now if I can remember them all, I did not write this
You never write anything down.
down. I never write anything down. Okay, so we have quality time. Um, what do you remember?
Communication is one of them. I know, like
Oh, talk. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
speaking,
Words of
words of
affirmation.
affirmation.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. And then we have the doing things for people,
acts of service.
acts of service. We have gifts. I know that one because that's one of mine. And There's one last one.
Yeah, I don't remember them off the top of my head either. Quality time and
Acts of
oh,
service, gifts, words of affirmation. Oh, physical
physical
touch.
touch.
We're
Yeah, I was
so
like,
silly,
I'm doing the motion, but
right? It's right there. Literally every man that I know, his love language is physical touch. But,
oh, it's probably yeah.
but
It's because the male energies lacked
oh,
it so much. They lacked such nurturance. I mean, my generation. I would say a large portion of several generations maybe lacked some of that
mm-hmm.
male. Hmm.
Hmm. Well, once you know your love language, then you can express that to the people around you. And I do feel as if um, what you lack in a romantic relationship
Hmm.
is what kind of shows up in your love language. And so whenever my husband wasn't giving me any gifts or any attention in that type of direction, I my love language was gifts. And now that he has been consistent and given me flowers and chocolate, and because I love those things a lot,
Yeah.
and jewelry and things like that, now that's not real, that has kind of fallen to the side. And quality time is massive for me.
Yeah.
Words of affirmation are also really big, and acts of service. So his love language, and these are the ones that I try to express the most because he needs that from me: physical touch, acts of service, and the quality time.
Yeah. That's interesting and so relevant because adversely, I was in a relationship. My marriage was his was the same as yours. I show you love by doing things for you and providing things for you. And I understood that. I do understand that that is a love language. It's not it's not my primary love language. I can recognize it and accept it and find value and appreciation in it. Um, mine, it just brings to mind that movie Can't Buy Me Love. Like, it's not what's, to me, how I feel it intimately and deeply. So, like, even though I was able to recognize that in my relationship and appreciate it, was like, but that's not mine. So even though I appreciate and love that, like, give me your time, give me your affection, tell me what I need to hear. I need to understand it in my mind. You spoke to the um, Venus being a a relevant and important thing to look at. It's true, but if you're looking at astrology, it's really important to know somebody's the way that they are emotionally. So their
Mm,
moon and also their Mercury, how they communicate is super important. Uh, if what element they're in, it can be very interesting and introspective how you communicate. If your Mercury is in a water sign, you're likely gonna be more intuitive and you're going to show more emotion and intimacy in those, that way, show love in that way. Um, and of course, whatever element your Venus is in as well. And if it is mutable, or are you the take charge sort of person that needs somebody, or are you more allowing? Are you mutable? Do you just kind of go with the flow? That's how I am. I'm fire. I'm down for fun stuff. Just like show me the way. Like, say, let's go. I'll go with you. You want to
mhm.
go to comedy? Sure. I don't really. Yeah, I'm not stuck in it. I don't have a firm opinion about that, but your Aries does.
Mm.
Your Aries is like, yeah, I need it. I'll tell you what I need here.
Right,
Yeah,
right. And my moon sign is Cancer, so I am deeply emotional. Like, if you don't have any past traumas in your life, I don't know if I can actually connect with you because
right.
you've never gotten into the nitty-gritty.
That's your inner child. So
Oh,
what is your moon need? What's the
right.
needs there? You got to know that.
Mm-hmm. What's your moon?
My moon is Gemini, and so
Oh.
right, and so I'm actually yeah, right now in sort of entering in a relationship where it's like I'm recognizing it more as part of what I need and trying to be more verbal about it because I am very mutable. And I'm so allowing, I'm so watery, I'm so, so feminine
Yeah.
in ways, or I have all the feminine earth and water influences that I just adapt and allow. It serves me like in relationship with other people very, very well because I'm an empath. It allows me to be empathic and understand what people are feeling and like adapt to what makes them comfortable, and then I can show them love and how and relate to them. It's more intuitive. It's not as conscious, but that is the moon in an air sign. You have to understand things in your mind before you can feel them in your body, if that makes sense. And it actually just came up in conversation like within the past couple of days here with me in my
Oh,
situation where I was like, oh, well, yeah, this back up. Wait, okay, so wait, this is what I understand this need and I understand this more consciously, and now I'm so it's beautiful that I'm allowed to speak that, and it's heard and accepted instead of like, wait a minute, and anger, why didn't you, why wouldn't, and it was, oh, wait. I need to understand it in my body first sometimes. And I don't think it's limited to people with air moons, but it's very indicative of people with air moons is you will feel it in your body. So unless you have good like vagal nerve, connection and balance and like nervous system regulation, I feel like sometimes we get out of balance with our nervous systems. And when you don't have that good connection, you feel it in your body when you don't, or your maybe your emotional body is shut off. I think it could be either, if you're air moon or if you're emotionally frozen, I suppose would be another indication of that, where there's that disconnect and you don't understand your emotional state in real time until you do. And then you're like, oh, and then it's like up for review once you feel it in your body or once you feel aggravation or some sort of anger, frustration, or imbalance of something, other emotional state comes up, and you're like, wait, why am I feeling that? Or, you know, um, why is this thing coming up? And let's review it. And oh, okay, that's now understood.
right. And
Yeah.
this is just a massive way to grow with your relationships and through your relationships whenever you have that mirror of reflection.
It's a
And
gift.
yeah, it
Such a
absolutely
gift.
is. And I also find that whenever you have a rapport with somebody and then a confrontation breaks out and you're able to work through that confrontation over and over again, you become more trusting and more comfortable with that person that I can be my full self. I can
Yeah.
be myself confidently and
And
trust that they will
safe.
accept me.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, you need to feel safe in order to
Absolutely.
express yourself and be vulnerable. So,
Hmm.
such a beautiful gift when you're able to have that space and be there for somebody
Yeah.
and allowed to be authentic and show up. And I feel like that just provides such a beautiful, and I really have met a lot of people out here, and I've sort of placed myself in an environment that allows that. Um, but our society is not set up and conducive for us to be that. So
Mm.
it is sort of a beautiful, and this just even having this conversation, hopefully it will give birth to other people wanting to have a similar conversation, and maybe it'll inspire people to have this conversation, at least ruminate in their own thoughts and their own being and their own way of how they move through life.
Right? And you can definitely like feel the physical sensations come up whenever you're in a confrontation. And then you can like ask yourself before having a reaction, like, why is this coming up? What's going on in my mind? Or what has happened in my past that makes me react like this, you
Right.
know? And just having that small pause and intuitive thoughts, we're kind of like stepping out of our um, reaction and we are being proactive. And that is so key with growing through relationships is to be proactive about um, obviously your inner child work. And I keep coming back to it because
Well,
it's so important.
so here's another thing to bring up too. Here's where compassion can come in handy as well. Who taught you how to be human? What are your parents like? So what are their wounds? What are your mother and father wounds? And that's really relevant. That's pointing to your inner child. How did you learn to be human? Who were the people who taught you to be? Who were the people who gave you the restrictions, either consciously or unconsciously? Most of it, of course, is unconscious. 90% of our awake brain is unconscious programming, patterns that are, generating thoughts based on, like I said before, keeping you safe, that primal fear-based brain that just wants to keep you alive and is generating these thoughts based on those pre-patterned programs.
Hmm.
biological programs. So becoming, like I said, bringing the conscious to the unconscious programming, and it comes up as discomfort when we aren't paying attention to it, and when it needs to be paid attention to. That's the gift that, like we said, is bringing up an opportunity to look at something or do something different or see it from a different perspective, and also consider, what is the story that I'm telling myself about this? And hey, is it true? Write it down for one, and then consider, why do I have the idea that that is the way it is? Is this true? And is it feeding, my experience or my being? And can I let it go or shift my perspective? And if I do, will it make my life more comfortable? Will it expand my consciousness to see it from that, so it promotes understanding?
Mhm.
Or am I keeping myself in a limited belief and thus in discomfort?
Absolutely. And whenever you are able to look at your past, your traumas, and see how it reflects in your relationships, and then express your needs to somebody else, then you can see if they can actually provide your needs to you. And if it's just not possible, if they are in their own trauma and their own triggers,
Yeah.
it is absolutely okay to say, I need to step back from this relationship, and you go ahead and work on yourself. I'm going to work on myself over here, and maybe we can bring it back around next year. Maybe we can revisit this, but for now, we're still working on ourselves. It's
Yeah,
okay.
so in the metaphysics community, we call those twin flame. Well, no, not the twin flame. Those are called karmic partners. Twin flames, I believe, can be very intense and learning, but usually it's the same, like different parts of the same energy. Karmic partners are people in relationships that will teach you. They are meant to trigger you and show you the sort of shadow aspects of yourself in order to bring awareness to them, in order to shift.
And usually with those type of partnerships, you grow like so quickly and exponentially, especially if you recognize it and you've had like the support system in place to grow through that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but unfortunately I don't, in my experience, it's like those aren't lasting ones, because, well, if you decide not to heal yourself, or you just won't see it, it's just too uncomfortable to be in for the long term. So they're very teaching and can be a lot, like you said, of like profound learning and growth. But if there isn't willingness to really learn the lesson, or move through the experience in a comfortable way, sometimes they can be uncomfortable, and then it's like, okay, that's too much, it's too intense. I need to find. I will also say, though, this sounds weird, but we do experience collectives of people. This is kind of this is something that, if you can expand your consciousness to meet the vibrational frequency of this understanding, it will make sense. But if you can't, it will be like, it'll sound crazy. But there are collectives of energies, that we can experience, and that comes through different uh, incarnations of people. So you can experience a soul connection with a different incarnation of beings, which is weird. I know it sounds weird, but I've experienced it, and it's pretty crazy. Same thing with people who channel; they can experience collectives of energy. They have individual consciousness, but then they also are part of a collective consciousness as well. And I feel like it shows up through our relationships. And if you look at the collective, it ties in with your chakras and your chakra systems and your planetary systems. Those are all
Mm.
connected as well. And those are collectives. It
So
sounds
would it be like similar to your own birth chart or to your own chakra system?
It's like how it shows up in your birth chart will or can be associated with that chakra and that learning experience and the trigger,
Mm.
and how it shows up in your outer experience. So that's what we were talking about before we started. How it shows up, how you are balanced or imbalanced, or aware or lack or not aware of your inner world, it shows up in your outer world. So if you have an unpleasant outer world experience or trigger, you go inward, find why you're feeling that way, where it comes from. Is it true? Do I need to let it go? And if you can release it in order to have a different understanding or an outer perspective or shift of awareness in it, it'll make your experience more. And then you've grown, and then you've expanded your awareness, and then, like I said, your experiences become less uncomfortable. And then because we're in a dense third dimensional reality, I mean, we are in whatever reality and dimension your awareness allows you to be and your heart center allows you to be, depending on your frequency, but uh, it will show up more quickly in your outer world if your consciousness is more expanded. So discomfort in your outer world will then fall away if you heal that internal part of yourself, and it is directly a reflection. Um, Manifestation is really about calming your nervous system, becoming centered, and then just allowing. It just doesn't show up usually immediately, although with the photonic light energy that is hitting the planet right now, it's going to be showing up more and more quickly. And of course, with all of the planets and energies that are shifting, outer planets and energies that are shifting into the fire and air, which is quick moving stuff. So it's going to happen more quickly and shift to be seen more quickly in our outer world experience more and more coming in 2025 and beyond. So we'll all be prepared for it, but the discomfort will also show up more quickly if we're not paying attention, if we're not intentional. So that's where that sort of downward spiral can go. We're either moving in an upward spiral or a downward spiral. The upward spiral would be growth and expansion. The downward spiral would be fear and shadow and getting stuck in that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So whichever way you are going, it's going to go very quickly, and you're going to be either raised up really quickly or pushed down, depending on the
Your
vibes,
consciousness,
your
yeah.
consciousness. I also like to think of, well, I'm thinking of the soul family. So this is a family that you would have beyond the body and that you meet up with, um, between lifetimes. And uh, these are people that you might meet on the street that's not like blood family, and you just click and vibrationally are right there. Like, I do feel like there's an energetic signature for every soul, and your energetic signatures are so alike that you are attracted to each other immediately.
I love that you brought this up. This is so divine inspired. So I just became a part of a group called Soul Family. It's like a family of light group that you connect with on that soul level. And of course, you're one of mine. I feel that, and
Of
I think we've
course.
of course felt that for a while. But we've been invited to join a larger Soul Family group. So if you are called to do this, we're of course in Central Florida. But if you are um, wanting to connect and be a part of a larger soul family group, and what we're saying resonates with you or intrigues you or expands you, and you want to become more of a part of it, we do invite you to connect with us because we are going to start hosting more of these in-person groups. And next year, we aspire to collaborate with larger groups and host events that are more in line with celestial events that are happening or moon cycles. So if you're in or near the area, or if you'd like us to host some virtual events, there's a lot of collaboration that's going to be happening in the next coming. But it just such a beautiful, I had to use that as the segue into it because I was like, oh my gosh, I wanted to talk about that during this
Absolutely.
podcast.
And like we definitely need support in the next coming up years. Like we need to reach out to the people that we can trust and we can be held with, essentially.
Yeah.
Because I think that that is absolutely key to find nurturing and almost like a mother figure to help you through those triggers to grow so that we're being pushed upward in that up spiral rather than down into fear and
Yeah,
regret,
people who help
denial.
lift you up and enlighten you and
Hmm.
allow you to be vulnerable and grow with those experiences. That's where we're moving into. So find those people for you, whoever they are,
Hmm.
and I think the community that you and I want to create, it's very much in alignment with that. It's interfaith. You don't have to, we're not telling people what to believe, go with your inner guidance system, do no harm, and what can we do to contribute to the growth and expansion of ourselves, each other, and our planet, and hopefully a larger celestial group going forward. I know that that's another thing we talked about last time was the whole, you know, I hate to say ET, not extraterrestrial. They're interdimensional. Some of them are interdimensional, and I feel
Hmm.
like those are the energies. The more benevolent energies are going to be they are more accessible to us right now, and they are going to continue to become more accessible to us. We have to be more conscious of our frequency in order to house these higher energies if we want to work with them. They are available to us. I've learned this more and more as I've done that kind of work. It's become a little bit easier for me to tune into them. So I've become a better and more clear channel myself. So I'm experiencing this very directly, and I really want to help people do the same thing because can you imagine if we lived in a world where we're all sort of channeling this divine, and co-creating together this beautiful, that is heaven on earth. That is exactly what
I
they're talking
imagine it every day
about.
to
Me
bring it
too.
into fruition
Yeah,
for real.
envision it. Yeah, let's birth it.
Hmm. So the last factor that I wanted to bring up with relationship is your attachment style, which is scientific based, and it is a matter of well, there's like some people say that there's five or three. I'm going to just name secure, which is the one that we're all trying to be right now. Like if you're secure, you're like the unicorn. Where are you?
Right.
We have anxious attachment, which is where we're afraid to let people go. We're afraid to have separation or any type of space between us and our significant other, or even it doesn't have to do with just lovers or romantic partnerships. It could also be uh, your your parents and your children and your grandparents. Your friendships, all of these relationships, you can look and see: am I the anxious attacher, or am I the avoidant? So avoidant is the last one, and that one is where people just leave at the drop of a hat. They're just like,
Am I the ghost you?
I need
Well, there's
space.
anxious avoidant.
There's
I've been
anxious
known to
avoidant
be anxious avoidant.
and fearful avoidant, which I think is anxious avoidant. Yeah, so yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So
You get all in
anxious
your head and then you're
avoidant,
like, okay, I'm out. I can't. No.
it,
I've
that
been that before.
that one is the hardest one because you want to withdraw, but you also really want to be close to that
Yeah,
person at the same
it
time.
sucks.
You
Yeah.
just wish that they could be there the way that you need them to be there at that moment. And in some relationships, most relationships, that's just not possible.
Yeah.
So, I'm an anxious person, so I really need people to be there for me consistently. And
And
this
to
kind
show
of
up.
goes with my Venus sign
Hmm.
of I need people to show up, have initiative, want to talk to me, consistently text me, consistently make plans. Like, this is key.
Fuel your fire with air and fire.
Quality time,
Yeah.
acts of service,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And I know a good amount of people, usually an anxious person attracts an avoidant person.
Mm.
And so my husband is quite avoidant, but because we know this, we are able to say, hey, look, I understand that you're an avoidant person. I'm an anxious person. So whenever you need space, absolutely take it. Give me a time.
Yeah.
Give me 5 minutes, 10 minutes, one day, whatever you need. Let me know when you're coming back because otherwise I'm just spinning and I'm just like, when he'll never come back again. Ah, you know.
Yeah. And it's funny because your subconscious will create situations that prove that you're right. And
Mm,
so be careful of those. And that those are the patterns. Those are the things that are keeping you safe. So you create these situations where you're you're showing yourself that I can keep you safe by leaving. So you create a situation that you need to leave.
right.
So be careful of how you manifest and what you're speaking into. And when you can see it, and you're like, oh, and you find yourself in that pattern, then you can look at yourself and hopefully you're given the space and time and you know what I mean? Yeah, to be able to do it and grow. And if you are around the right people, you will. You
Hmm.
are allowing, and you're allowing yourself to see it. But that's where
Absolutely.
it's like, oh, that's uncomfortable. Why do I keep experiencing this one thing? Well, and be careful of the phrase, oh, it always happens to me, or, oh, yep, just my luck. Stop saying those things, people.
Hmm.
You're making a declaration to the universe that you are correct and to keep giving you more of that. And so it will. And you will continue to see those things show up in your outer world because of that. We are way more powerful than we are given credit for, than we are taught we are. Manifestation, like I said, it's we're creator beings. We're made in the image of God or the source as creators, as creator beings, and we are here to manifest. That is why we're here, to have these experiences through the physical. And if we allow it to be more of co-creation with divine self, with divine, um, that's where you work with in conjunction with that. Then yeah, then it allows us to become aware of those uncomfortable brain patterns.
Absolutely. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. It is. It's carving out the space and for balance. And I think that was one of the things that we were talking about, like living in cycles. These are things that we aren't taught. These are great tools to use. The enneagram and relationship styles and astrology and planetary placements and how we operate. And these are all great tools to be able to consider. That's why we talk about them.
Hmm.
And to work with the cycles to bring the conscious to the unconscious for awareness, to carve out space, to hold and grow and evolve and remember, recollect light, put light and awareness to cycle upwards. What were we going to say? I'm sorry, if you guys can hear my dog in the background. He's like scratching at the door. He's being really annoying. I'm
He's
sorry.
definitely an anxious attacher.
Yeah, right. Can you understand what your love language is through your dog? Is that a I know your kids definitely are reflections of, yeah, your attachment styles.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Well, I know that my childhood has definitely built my attachment style, and that's the experiment that they had to kind of define attachment styles is they would study babies and how whenever the mother would come into the room, the reaction would be and how whenever a stranger would come into the room, the reaction would be, and usually it would um, reflect throughout their childhood into adulthood, and they would still have the same reaction with their significant other or their children or things like that. So, knowing this about yourself and knowing this about the people around you, because my attachment style to my sisters now is almost a little avoidant because they have told me no time and time again that I'm just like, well, you don't value this relationship, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it on the back burner. Whenever you're ready to take action and be a part of this relationship, I'll be ready, but I'm just not going to put expectations on it to, I was making myself feel really depleted and sad that my sisters didn't want to hang out with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's the boundaries, and sometimes those boundaries that we have to put up hurt sitting in. So
Hmm.
so I think I mentioned before sitting in discomfort too, and how we're taught to avoid it, but it's such a teacher, and it really is something we should become more comfortable with moving towards. Here's something that I did here that I will say was extreme. I love the way she put it. I might have mentioned this last time. I'm going to say it again if I did. She said, and then she's one of the, like, she's a spiritual teacher. She's like a psychologist or something. She said, we get braver by braving. It's like you put yourself in discomfort, like you just get more used to it. It's by being brave. She said, you get braver by braving, and the more you do it, just the more you just get used to it basically, and so you become
Absolutely.
braver. It's not like something that you do once and all of a sudden you're brave. That's such a beautiful way to do that, to say that. The same thing with discomfort, and what she's speaking to, of course, is just being used to putting yourself in discomfort and becoming allowing it to be your teacher and your friend. um, it's not going to be forever. Sitting in discomfort to learn how you're feeling. Why is this, but using breath work, I found that that is really a necessary tool for me when I'm in discomfort, is learning how to breathe.
Hmm.
I feel like breath work is grossly misunderstood. I have not studied it. All I know is that lately it has been come to my attention that it is really something that we sometimes use or we're using unconsciously because it's one of those automatic nervous system, or automatic, not nervous system, responses, systemic responses in our body. We don't think about it, but if we used it more intentionally, we could carve out space for more comfort as we're moving through discomfort emotionally in order to regulate our nervous
You
system.
can literally control your emotions through your breath. I do want to preface something. We are not trying to say to stay in any relationship that is abusive,
Right.
or that's not the uncomfortable that we are talking about. Uncomfortable that we're talking about is like there's a subject that you don't want to bring up because you are afraid of judgment, or you are afraid of separation or things like that. Uh, Continuing to stick up for yourself, to have courage to step into your authentic self
Yeah.
consistently and express your needs, is going to help you flourish in any relationship.
Absolutely. If you are in a relationship where you're being abused emotionally, physically, mentally, in any way, please do not consider this condoning that in any way. Absolutely not. Those are where we need to set the boundaries for sure.
But
It
back
is, like
to
you said, triggers. Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But back to the breath work. I see breathing as the more as energy. So the more you breathe in, you're breathing in energy. The more you breathe out, you are breathing out that energy. So say you need to go to sleep and you're just so energetic, what we can do is we can bring our exhales a little longer than our inhales. And vice versa. If we're super tired in the morning and we need to wake up, we can increase our inhales more than our exhales to increase that energy. And so this is just like a little intuitive playing with our breath. Now, you might notice that whenever you get upset, you might hyperventilate, or whenever you're really sad or anxious or things like that. And that is just the um, trying to calm yourself down, but really it is over activating um, your lungs, your throat, your everything. What we really should try to do is maybe hold the breath at the lowest point of the breath, and then exhale, well, inhale slowly, and then hold at the top.
Yes.
Exhale slowly.
So anytime you're in nervous system dysregulation, if you can pay attention to your breath, you're bringing in that life force energy consciously, and if you breathe into your stomach, it will calm your nervous system.
Hmm.
So belly breath, so slow, like you said, deep. That's belly breathing. Feel you're filling your air up with, or your stomach up with air when you breathe in. Just let it, descend, and then slowly breathing out to calm your nervous system.
Whenever we do belly breathing or diaphragmatic breathing, this is extending the belly helps your diaphragm dip low. So it gives your diaphragm space so that your organs kind of pooch out. And then whenever you press the belly button to the back of the spine, it presses that diaphragm up and extinguishes all of the breath. So it really does help kind of get the whole flow a little slower,
Hmm.
and then you can just like look at how you were feeling physically, like where are the sensations in your body showing up, right?
Right.
So breath is key to understanding and controlling. Like, I'm not going to say control your emotions, but it does help you get,
Regulate.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, another thing that I've noticed is whenever I'm in a situation that I just feel so loved and held and everything else, I constantly go,
Yeah.
ah,
I do this at work to regulate my nervous because, okay, so like if you're sitting in front of a computer a lot, like me, or you're, even if you're just in a high stress environment, and you'll notice you have the tension in your shoulders and, your body, and your breathing is shallow, you'll notice. So I'll do that to bring consciousness and bring conscious awareness. You're inviting divine spirit in. Like that's what you're doing. You're centering your body when you're try to make sure your spine is straight too, and then take that deep belly breath. And if you just do that, like literally, just any time that you have that awareness, like once an hour, or set your whatever, just to bring that, it's actually insanely beneficial.
mm-hmm. Yeah, breathe.
Yes, we are
So,
a nation of shallow breathers.
right, and through the nose. I've been hearing that breathing in and out of the nose is key to opening up passageways and to making sure your brain is fully oxygenated. And I've heard that it makes your face more pretty. So just do that. Just breathe through your nose.
Yeah, I know I did. I read that too. It's aesthetically. So yeah, if you're an open mouth sleeper, they've noticed that it does something to like the shape of your face or something like
Mm.
that. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've heard that Native Americans do this where whenever they have infants, they will breastfeed them, and then right after breastfeeding, they'll press their lips together so that they breathe in and out of their nose. They will um, press their lips together constantly whenever they are sleeping, like the infants are sleeping, so they're breathing in and out of their nose. They even have something on the market now. I think it's called mouth tape, and it's where you tape your mouth while you sleep, so you're only breathing in and out of your nose. It's
Wow.
so interesting.
I've never heard of that. That is interesting.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So whenever you're at Thanksgiving, so Thanksgiving is tomorrow for us, but it would have been last week for y'all. Um, well, whenever you're at Christmas around your family, make sure that you're breathing. Make sure that you're breathing and notice how secure or insecure you're feeling in each relationship that you have with your family members. Because whenever you're able to step forward in your most authentic self, you're feeling really secure in that relationship.
Yeah. And also boundaries. We do, like, I'm a child of the 70s, and we weren't really taught boundaries, especially. So it does give us an opportunity to set them. And like I said, if it does feel emotionally or mentally abusive, definitely care for yourself in whatever way you need to. And sometimes setting the boundaries, just a short interaction or no interaction or virtual interaction too. So allow yourself the space to, because maybe our generation, and maybe there are some people of all generations that are willing to do the work, but there are some times where family members are just not willing to do the work. They're not willing to see these things. They're not willing to open their perspectives and to shift things to, different understanding or higher awareness, or they don't want to become accountable because it
Mm-hmm.
hurts. It hurts to be the person that caused pain to somebody else. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the hardest part of owning our stuff is it's like, well, they're like, well, that's not what I meant, and okay, well, but that doesn't, that's not still, my truth is this, and this is how I would need to feel comfortable in this relationship. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully people are allowing you space, but if they're not, do what you need to do to care for yourself, to set boundaries.
And emotions that come up whenever your boundaries have been trampled on or, stepped over would be bitterness or anger, things like
Frustration.
that, frustration. Once these emotions show up in you, then you know, hey, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have made that extra dish that nobody even ate and, you know, like it wasn't even that good because my mother-in-law asked me to. Next time I'm just going to tell her no. You know, next time I'm not going to do more, I'm going to do less. And that's okay too.
Yeah, people teach us how to show up sometimes too. And again, look at the stories, look at your beliefs around that.
Hmm.
What's bringing it up? Like, oh, I'm upset with this. Well, okay, let me consider this. Is this true? You'd be surprised at how many times you ask yourself if this is true and you're triggered by something that you have a belief around that isn't even true, you know? So it's like, oh, wait a minute, no, that's not true. But if it is, um, next step is how can I show up differently, I suppose, or yeah, if I change, how do I change my how I show up or my thought about something, or do I need to change something physically or emotionally or whatever?
Yeah, usually it's expectations for me. I just need to
Hmm.
change my expectations so
You
I
go.
don't get so upset.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're all our own worst enemies, really.
Also, another thing to look at is your divine masculine and your divine feminine and seeing, um, usually they are out of balance. Like I am definitely more masculine.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's really hard for me to sit back and just receive whenever there's so much to be done. And why aren't you doing this? What's going on over here? Come on, let's get this done. Hurry up. So because I know that my divine masculine, well, my masculine can get a little out of control, I force myself to sit down and have a nice conversation with the people around me rather than having my hands busy or whatever. I just, it's okay. I breathe.
That's great. So you're aware of that of yourself, so that allows you to tune into that Cancerian moon
Hmm.
and sort of just be in water and be in your feminine and but you have that to access your emotional state. So then I would venture to guess the conversations that you're engaging in are going to be healing conversations, and how can I be of service to you and like help heal you. I bet if that were the case, that would be the root of those conversations, because yeah, you're allowing yourself to show up as the water, as the feminine.
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
And I'm also allowing my husband to show up in his masculine, to serve me, to um, provide for
Yeah.
the family.
Yeah.
And it does really give him the space because used to I would overbear him with all the things that need to happen. And now I'm giving him space. I'm stepping back for him to step forward. It is a little dance that we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know you're more in your feminine, right?
For my emotionally mean?
Yeah.
Emotionally not. No, emotionally I'm air. Emotionally I'm an overthinker. That's where uh, my anxiety, my anxiousness comes from. So that's where I've had to learn to access the water and move into water. So your Saturn is your planet of life lessons. Mine is actually in Cancer. So my life lessons are all around learning about emotions. I have See, so if you look at 27 degrees Sagittarius in your chart, where that shows up, that is in alignment with what they call the galactic center, and you have an extra boost of energy there. And it happens to feed my healing, like my desire to show up as a healer, and so that's in direct correspondence with that Cancerian energy. So yeah, so I guess maybe that's where that shows up, that feminine shows up, that allowing, but I do get in my mind, and that is an anxious. I so identify with that. I talked about that anxiety character in Inside Out too, because it's like, wow, caught up in that air. So um
Maybe that's why you are now focusing on your breath more and
yeah.
like slowing it down
Hmm.
rather than
Yeah, all the things that I've learned are nervous system regulating, because, hey, this is what we do, right? We find the means to heal ourselves, and I have sought out a lot of things that I found are valuable, and I want to tell everybody about them. So yeah, I think that's why we you too. I feel like, you're like, hey, I found this stuff and it's helped me in life, so I want to help and be a helper human. Your Cancer is the healer. Cancer is is the healer. That's what Cancer means. It's water, and it's let me hold space for you in order to help you heal.
hmm I do feel like that. I definitely do. And whenever I started finding my inner mother, my nurturer, it really did help me change the commentary in my brain from like self-sabotaging and how horrible a person I am to no, you're actually an awesome person
Yeah.
and I want to continue to see you grow and you're doing great with your life. So you can always tap into that inner mom
To parent the inner
to
child.
parent your inner
Because that's what
child.
it's about, self-love, really getting to a place where you can accept, use your shadow as your gift. So becoming aware of the downside of it, can allow you to act from a higher standpoint, from that observer standpoint. So full circle here, becoming the observer of how you move through life can allow you to not criticize. If you have to use your own name, do that. Talk to your ego self.
Hmm.
Oh boy, Chris is all up in her head again, like, and I do this, and people who allow me to express that inner voice to them and reflect and review, and oh my gosh, this is how I showed up in this, and this is how I understand it, and I'm sorry, or I hope you understand this, and this is what I need going forward. Like that's gonna be the conversation that makes you. But then also that allows you to, that's an act of self-love in itself. And then when you do that and you move through the experience like that, you do gain that. I nurtured myself and I showed myself I could do it. I can move to a higher expression. Oops, I'm sorry. I don't know what that is.
Is it me or you?
I don't know.
I think it's me.
Higher expression of that energy. I don't know why. Why it got staticky.
Yeah. Um,
We were talking about self-love. The microphone got real staticky, so we paused it for a second.
so this does bring it around all the way back to if you love yourself, then you can fully express that love to others.
Yeah.
So whenever you get on an airplane, they say put your mask on first because if you don't, you can't take care of the people around you. So whenever I've reprogrammed myself to say whenever I nurture and love myself, I am loving everyone around me.
Yeah.
Not only that, but the Beatles, I love the Beatles. They have this song, and in the song they say, I am you, and you are me, and we are all together. And I take this on a soul level that each one of us is just ourselves in another physical being.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're the human collective, so that speaks to the collectives. But yeah, it, what I was going to say was that it gives us the capacity when we give to ourselves to hold that space for others, to give extra grace when we know we require it. So
Hmm.
yeah, full circle. Your inner world will reflect outwardly. If you give yourself the grace, it will be given to you. And just yeah, to allow yourself the higher perspective to shift to see and have compassion for those around us based on what we know we need.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So I think that we can leave it here. I think that the subject of relationships, we will continue to explore this, just like we will continue to explore elements and other things. We really want to explore out out there subjects. So I want to do human design,
Hmm.
and we might just invite somebody on to help us with this because we're not experts in it. We're actually not like experts in anything,
Hmm.
but we just want to come and be as we are and express things that we've learned throughout our life that might help other people.
Hmm. Yeah, we've gained access by using tools to sort of dive deeper into various subjects and things that we have found extremely relevant um, in terms of our own self-healing and things that we just feel like, oh gosh, this is the way that the world is moving, and bringing consciousness and awareness to these things is so important. I know I am a broken record when it comes to it, but it really is so important. I just want to shout it from the rooftops, and I want to hold space for everybody and invite everybody to start having these conversations. And we do get weird. We talk about astrology and astrology, or not astrology, Aquarius, and Aquarius being the weird.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
funny, astrology is ruled by Aquarius. But we talk about these things, and as the world gets weirder, and as the world expands in consciousness, people are going to be drawn to these conversations. They're going to become more curious about the nature of reality. And yeah, I'm not an expert, but I've studied it. You're not an expert, but you've studied it. We are PhDs in our own life experience. At the end of my 40s right now, and in my last years of my 40s here, and I've paid attention, and I feel like I've gotten eclectic information, but I've tied it together in ways where it matters. The stuff
Mhm.
matters. It's not just because I think it's fun. I really feel like it's what's going to catapult the world into a new direction, and that people are going to be seeking us, um, you know, types of people like us, and information that has been collected around these topics in order to help expand and grow into we're creating world peace. Anybody who doesn't believe in it cannot believe in it. I believe in it, and I am a part of it. This is the whole 70s movement of love and peace and Age of Aquarius, and we are it showing up. So we are embodying it. I've come here to be the weird one, and so have you. So join us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We hope you'll have a amazing holidays
Yeah.
and handle all of your relationships with care and nurturing and love. And we'll see you again next Thursday.
So much love to you guys. Be well.